Welcome to the Abe podcast, a conversation with amazing world class lawyers from around the country. And we have been really on a record because we've had some amazing guests recently that I think you probably have checked out. And if you haven't, definitely go to the Abe Legal channel and subscribe. And if you like this conversation today, as you've liked them in the past, don't hesitate to like the conversation by hitting the like button. And if you haven't already, again, had your questions ready, then put them into the chat box. We can make sure that we get those questions answered. As you may know, I'm Talib Karim, the CEO of Abe, and Abe is a platform that brings together amazing world class lawyers from around the country to make sure that individuals, families, and small businesses have the legal resources that they need when they need it. And I am honored to be joined by another one of our amazing lawyers in our network, attorney Brittnay Gardner. Brittnay, welcome to the Abe podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Brittnay, you are a lawyer with many resources and many experiences. You have done some wonderful work in the area of representing clients in the personal injury space, medical malpractice space, uh, clients who have faced criminal prosecution as a result of issues while driving. Uh, and you've even done, I know, some family law work. Can you tell me if I was going to read a book called The Making of Brittnay Gardner, and I was going to turn to the pages, the chapters on you right after high school, from high school to college, and to your career. Can you summarize what that chapter might be? I mean, first of all, did you go to Groves High in Philly? I know that's a popular high school.
No, I went to Little Flower in Huntington Park, Philadelphia.
Okay, okay. Well, tell me then what might that summary of those chapters be like?
So after high school, I graduated from Little Flower High School for Girls in 2006. I went to Temple University. At the time, I did not want to be an attorney. I went to Temple for to become a pharmacist. So I was a pre-pharmacy major. Midway through college, I realized that I did not want to be a pharmacist. I did not enjoy my science and my math classes. So, spoke with one of my academic advisors and decided to become an English major. So, graduated from Temple University in 2011 with my bachelor's in English, minor in sociology. After graduating from Temple, I worked for the First Judicial District of Pennsylvania, which is the courts here in Philadelphia. I worked in the pretrial services unit where I assisted criminal defendants with obtaining legal representation or free legal representation provided by the court. I worked there for 2 years. I also worked in they changed the name of it since I worked there, but it was the Philadelphia Warrant Unit. Worked there for 2 years. Then I went to law school. So I went to law school in 2013. I started, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, graduated within 2.5 years, was able to graduate early while still maintaining my connections here in Philadelphia. Set for the bar exam, passed Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and I've been practicing in private practice on my own for about 3 or 4 years now.
That's amazing in terms of that story. And I definitely would buy that book because I could tell there's some stuff you're holding back
Mm-hmm.
from that beginning point of graduating from high school until law school. But can you tell me what is an average day of Brittnay Gardner Esquire's life like? I know you hold licenses, and I see those licenses behind you. Licenses in what states? What licenses do you hold? And can you tell me what was your day like yesterday?
So I am an attorney in Pennsylvania. In New Jersey, I am also licensed in the federal court, Eastern District of Pennsylvania, as well as the federal court in New Jersey, which is the United States District Court of New Jersey. Um, and yesterday I had court. I had a gun case in Philadelphia, so I was downtown yesterday morning. So usually my days start off with I like to meditate, try not to read any emails, respond to any text messages. I just like to take my morning slow and get a good start on the day. I'm addicted to coffee, so I pretty much go to Starbucks every day, every morning. I'm at Starbucks. And then I get my day started, whether I am going to court or if I'm in the office assisting my staff. My younger sister, she works for me now. She's in high school, so she's getting a lot of legal experience at a very young age. And, just work from the office if I'm not in court, prepping for cases, calling back clients, potential clients, things of that nature. And then I'm home. So I'm also a mom. So I'm home doing mom stuff, cooking, cleaning, yelling for my kid to get off the game after a certain point. So that's pretty much my day.
And you mentioned that you're working out of your office, which I know in these days you have a gradual return to the office by people, and you say you like to meditate in your office. And one of the things that I know your office is based in West Philly. Is that called West Philly or more?
No, we're in this is like Mount Airy,
Mount
Westwood
Airy,
Lane section. So
right?
we're not far from Cheltenham.
Shelter. So it's called Mount Airy, and I know that your offices are actually located right next to an Islamic center. Is that correct?
Yes, we're in the masjid administrative offices. Yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine having a better place to meditate personally
Right.
than being that close to that spiritual energy, if you will, coming and emanating from that building.
Yes.
Tell me, in terms of the practice that you are currently uh, mostly focused on, uh, how did you, out of all the different practices of law, criminal law, family law, uh, medical malpractice, personal injury, why did you decide to focus on, well, first of all, tell us out of those five, because I know you do all of those, family law included. Out of all those that we discussed, which one do you like the most, and why do you get most pleasure from that?
So the one that I do like the most, I don't have a one like a favorite. I started out my practice doing DUIs. So I enjoyed from the beginning. My first client, I literally got the day after I was sworn in to practice law in New Jersey, and he had court like the next day. So I've always enjoyed doing DUIs. So I've consistently maintained that in my practice. Um, but also with the personal injury medical malpractice, we also do civil prisoners' rights cases. And I enjoy just getting some sort of recovery and justice or assistance for my clients. I've had clients come to me and say they tried to sign up with another attorney. The other attorney or firm wasn't interested in their case. They didn't think it was enough money for them to get involved and things of that nature. So here we kind of are like a big firm quality without the big firm expenses. And so we do whatever we can to get a recovery for our client in those types of cases. And we actually just settled one case for a client who he signed up with another firm or another attorney, and the attorney just terminated services because they weren't interested in it, saying that there was no money in it, and I was able to get him a nice check. So I'm glad that I'm able to do that for people in my community.
And I see that you're one of the Philly top 10 lawyers. How did you earn that title of being one of the top 10 lawyers in Philadelphia?
It was an award that I received. It's actually in Pennsylvania, but it was one of the top 10 DUI attorneys in Pennsylvania that I've received consistently for like the last 3 years, I think. It's been 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
And tell me, if you could, what was the most challenging case that you ever faced? And you don't have to disclose the names of the parties or anything like that to protect confidentiality. But
Right.
tell us about that case, and how did it resolve itself?
So, my most challenging case to date, I would say, was a drug case. I'm not going to say which county it's in, but it's in a suburban county. And my client was charged with possession um, of marijuana, and they said that he was delivering it, which is a felony. And this person actually was able to get the marijuana legally, but the problem was they transported it through state lines, which violates the interstate, which violates federal law because it's passing through interstate commerce. And this client ran through about three attorneys before he got to me, and I was able to resolve the case without him becoming a convicted felon. So that was my most challenging, I would say, but I was able to get him exactly what he wanted. So
And a question that I have, because we've recently sponsored a hackathon with middle and high school boys, and I don't know how old is you have a son, right?
yes, he's 13.
13. Okay, he could have been one of our contestants. We had a lot of them competing uh, with the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity to develop mobile phone apps to end some of this violence in our communities. And the question that I have for you is, I guess, relating to some of the work that you have done. If we see that, let's say, for example, hypothetical, if I live in a neighborhood, and it's a pretty nice neighborhood, but yet there is a house where we get a lot of traffic to in and out at different times of the day. And so I've asked neighbors, what's going on there, and they said, well, that house is a dispensary for marijuana, and we're concerned about people coming into our neighborhood taking parking spaces. It's not like they're necessarily causing any type of, at least apparent, uh, issues beyond just the traffic issues for now. But there's always a risk of having that type of activity in your neighborhood. There's children around. Uh, if there was, let's say, a fight of some sort, and our homes are in the vicinity, you know, there could be a stray bullet coming into our homes. What would you do as a lawyer who represents people who are involved with those types of issues? Uh, what would you do to prevent the type of uh, violence? And what do you? What is your outlook? I mean, on the one hand, you are, in a place spiritually somewhat seemingly centered, but then the other hand, you do represent clients and faced with those types of cases. How do you, what's your approach towards that, and how, what's your thought about the system itself that leads and facilitates the possible violence that comes from that type of activity?
So you're asking me how do I represent those people that are charged with those crimes in the community?
Yeah, I mean, and let's just take it holistically. Like, let's start from the point of you having let's say, hypothetically speaking, if you had a home in your neighborhood where they were, distributing marijuana, for example, how might you engage with that homeowner or the residents of that home in a way that would protect your son and the community of people in which you live?
You personally or as an attorney?
Well, as an attorney, but personally as well.
Um, that's an interesting question. Um, I think as an attorney, I usually, even though I still have to be a lawyer, I still am down to earth with my clients. So if I see something that I'm like, probably shouldn't be doing it, but just be mindful of what you're doing, how you're moving within the community or in just life in general. So I kind of give like general advice on top of legal advice when I represent people, just to say, yeah, I am your attorney. I'm going to do whatever I can to, make sure your rights aren't violated, that you are going to get the best offer that you can get, that we can get a not guilty. But I also do advise them about, if this type of behavior is what you're doing, you might want to reconsider some things. I've had told clients that before. I've also told somebody just recently that everything that I had, I said this isn't good. This doesn't look good, and something needs to happen. So I do, have the down to earth part about it too, as well as advising people like legally as their attorney. Because that's just the person that I am. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. And so let me also ask the question about how might you engage with a homeowner who is engaged with that type of activity in your neighborhood? What would you advise people? What's the best thing for us to do as a way of also trying to do some prevention of anything that might come from that particular home?
I guess that's where like community comes from. I'm not like I know some neighborhoods still have community meetings. I know it's COVID, but like the block captains and things of that nature, just like gathering the community around. I really don't know how that is nowadays. I know when I was younger, I feel like the community was more involved with each other. I don't think it's like that anymore, but that may be something that we should probably get back to, is more community engagement within our own communities.
And that's a very important point. As an attorney, you, as you know, are an advisor, you are an advocate, but you're also a counselor. And I'm sure you have engaged in counseling of communities that you might find yourself or where you might uh, be called. Can you tell us and give us an example of what types of things you do it, because you have a really challenging responsibility as both a mother, a lawyer, a business owner, if you will. What are the types of things that you do to help the community uh, beyond the practice of law, which I know is a major challenge? But can you talk about some of the things that you do outside of the confines of the actual practice itself?
Sure. So I sit on the board of a nonprofit here in Philadelphia. It's called SWAG, which is Successful Women Achieving Goals. It's for minority girls, and we more so focus on high school um, girls nowadays, but that are in the inner city. We take them on college tours. We are partnered with like Urban Outfitters and Wawa and Ellis Trust. So we're able to get the girls grants and scholarships and iPads and different things like that. But I have been involved with SWAG for the last 2 years. I am their legal coordinator. So that is something that I do. I also volunteer actually for Philly VIP. Sometimes I take on some pro bono cases to help people in or tenants and landlord tenant court, as well as if I see something on social media, like if somebody is um, seeking sponsors for a workshop. I just donated to a pre law workshop, and I think I don't remember where it is this young lady is. I think she's in DC, but I sponsored a student to attend their pre-law boot camp because the young lady wants to become an attorney. So different things like that. Because I am pretty much still involved or interested in public service. I was an intern with Mayor Michael Nutter here in Philadelphia my last semester of law school. So I interned with his administration, and I was in the Office of Homelessness Prevention, trying to get the homeless some assistance, like whether they needed medical assistance, if they needed food and shelter. I used to canvas. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with Philadelphia, but with Love Park and where the art museum is, there was a huge homeless population, and I was involved with canvassing and seeing what those individuals needed in terms of resources. So I also, do that type of stuff as well.
That's amazing. Tell me a little bit, if you would, about a typical medical malpractice or a personal injury case. What are some of the mechanics, like from the beginning, when a person sets up hopefully consultation through Abe and sits down with you remotely, which is good. And these days, you don't have to even leave the comfort of your home in order to schedule an appointment and meet with a world class attorney like you. After that consultation, well, first let's talk a little bit about that consultation. What you try to communicate and extract from them during that consultation, and then what happens thereafter.
So I would say the most important part is to get the date of the injury and when they believe the injury occurred or when it actually occurred, because that is going to start the statute of limitations, which would determine how long you have to file a claim against the person that you intend to sue. So that would be the most important or initial thing. You also want to find out whether or not their person sought medical treatment after their injury. So if they went to their primary care physician, if they went to the emergency room and get all of those medical records from those physicians, so that the attorneys can review the medical records and see what is the next best option in terms of treatment, or to see what type of injuries that they have, to see how viable of a claim against the defendant would be.
And then once you have had that conversation, that consultation with the client, I understand that there's a summary that's generated to summarize that conversation through the Abe legal platform. But what happens thereafter? After they then follow up with you because they're given your office number and they contact you and say, Attorney Gardner, you were wonderful during the consultation. I'd like to engage you. What should I do now? Can you talk me through the next steps?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll sign the client up, send out an engagement letter, have them review and sign it, and also have them sign some releases so that we can actually obtain those medical records on our own from their primary care physician, or if they had to go to the emergency room, we would have to reach out to the emergency room and get those medical records as well. And then whether the attorney or the paralegal, somebody in the office, are they're going to review the medical records to see what occurred or what the diagnosis is, to see if they have an actual injury. Then after that, usually some attorneys will send out a demand letter to the insurance company. If it's a car accident, you send it to the insurance company. If you're hurt at let's say McDonald's or something like that, you have a slip and fall at McDonald's, you would send it to whoever is the person to contact at McDonald's at the corporate office. You would send a demand letter to them, and if they don't respond, or if they don't agree with whatever your demand is, then the next step would be to actually file a complaint against the defendant for damages.
Sorry, tell me, in that type of complaint, how long between the time that you file a complaint does it take for, let's say, for example, let's say before the complaint, the time you write the demand letter, what happens between that time and how long does it take to even get a response?
So from the insurance company,
Yes. So from the insurance company, or let's say the general counsel of a particular, uh, be it a hospital or be it uh, a store that a person might have gotten injured at, how long, or maybe even a school that a person received injuries, how long does it take to get that demand letter responded to?
so usually I would say insurance companies are good at getting back to you whether or not they agree with whether if they believe that their insured is liable or not. There, I would say they're pretty good at responding rather quickly. I would say to actually resolve or settle a claim. I would say with negotiations, I would say probably no more than a week to get a case settled. I've settled one case. It was a car accident case. I settled that case within like 2 emails after I sent out a demand letter. But I would say they respond rather quickly if you're dealing with an insurance company. If you're dealing with like and a lay person, an everyday person that you send a demand letter to, like your neighbor or somebody, usually they probably won't respond. Um, but I would say generally they're pretty responsive.
And let's say, for example, if you don't get a response, I've spoken to one woman who suggested that she had a lawyer who sent a demand letter last, let's say, last uh, January or February, from what I recall. And so she says that since that time until now, they haven't gotten a response. Is that normal? Or, and if it's not, what might you do if you were representing that particular customer, or if the customer came to you and said, hey, I had this lawyer, we got no response. What should I do?
So usually I would send a follow up demand letter, something that says, this is the second time we're reaching out, second request. But usually in my demand letters, I put that if we haven't heard from the other party, or if we can't resolve, if it's clear that we can't resolve it, that the next step would be to actually file a complaint in whatever jurisdiction it is. So I do add that language in my letters. But if an attorney has sent out a demand letter and you haven't heard from anyone, then that would be like my suggestion to send another one or just file a complaint.
And in that context, if you were to file a complaint, how long does it take at that point to have some type of result or next step, or hopefully a settlement? What takes place?
So, I mean, it can take a couple years, a few years to actually, if it's in the court system, it can take at least a year. If you're scheduled for a settlement conference with a judge, I would say if you file a complaint, you may be able to get like a settlement conference within 6 months. And then from there, um, if you're able to resolve it at the settlement conference with the judge, then that's it. If you can't settle it, then it's scheduled for trial, which will probably be a jury trial, which will take more time because you still have to, you know, pick a jury and prepare for trial. Then you have to make sure everyone's calendars are in sync. So that's why if you actually file a complaint, it might take longer to resolve.
And in terms of how do you managing expectations, how do you manage expectations of clients who come to you, who may even see their cases, especially in this time of COVID and financial difficulty, as investments? They want to get paid You got some bills to take care of. How do you address those expectations?
Well, I tell people from the beginning that personal injury, medical malpractice case, I mean, usually those cases take longer because there is a discovery portion that you have to consider, which discovery can take about 3 to 6 months. So you have to factor into the timeline that the courts give attorneys to actually get all the information that they need before they even try to settle a case or even attempt to accept um, liability. So I tell people that, what do you want? Do you want to settle or do you want to take this all the way to the end? If you want to settle for a quick $10,000-$15,000 check, then it could be sooner. But if you want a higher recovery, you probably would need to treat more and make sure that we have all of the information that we have, that we can send out a demand letter to opposing counsel or the insurance company to say, look, my client treated, after she treated, we got an MRI and we also found out that from this MRI she has a herniated disc or something like that. But all of that takes time. So I tell people that, I mean, it depends on what you want out of it. And a lot of people do settle their cases because they don't have the time. They're pressed for money, and with litigation is even more money. So the longer a case is drawn out, the more money that you have to pay for filing fees. If you're filing a complaint, you have to file filing fees with the court. If you have an attorney, usually the defense attorney on that side, um, they don't work off of contingencies. So the actual defendant is paying that attorney to defend the case. So it's more money to drag a case out for both parties, honestly. So that's why most people settle. And that's what I tell people from the beginning. It's pretty much what you want out of it when you're ready to, tap in and say, I've had enough. So that's how I try to explain it to people.
And maybe you can also talk about because you talked about contingency fees versus a hourly arrangement. And I've heard some personal injury attorneys say that the idea of a straight contingency fee is just not workable in these days. Can you talk about the different fee arrangements, either contingency, hourly, or a hybrid approach?
So I think that hourly, paying attorneys hourly, I think that is becoming like really old school.
And can you
I
and can
really,
you start by talking about what is an
yeah.
hourly fee, what is a contingency fee, what are the hybrid approaches?
So hourly means you pay your attorney by the hour, whatever their hourly rate is. That's how much you are paying them to work on your case. So you really don't know at the end of the day how much you're going to pay that attorney. With the contingency fee, you don't pay any money up front unless you recover. So whatever the contingency fee is, that's what the attorney would receive after the case is resolved. You have contingency fee, you have hourly, you have flat fee. So a flat fee is just one set number. You don't pay anything more, you don't pay anything less for whatever you need that attorney to do. But sometimes they may ask to be reimbursed for filing fees. So that is something that I do when I do flat fees. I usually do flat fees. I don't do a lot of hourly, but if I'm doing a flat fee, like say if I'm doing an expungement, if someone wants me to help them clear their criminal record, I'll charge them a flat fee, but I'll say, look, my firm is going to file it for you. The filing fee is 147. We've already paid it. You need to give me my 147 back. So it'd be a combination of a flat fee and the filing fees associated with whatever you need done.
And in terms of these contingency fees, what is the percentage typically of such an arrangement? And can you talk about what I heard a lot of lawyers talk about in terms of a hybrid approach of a contingency and a flat fee?
So I think with the hybrid, I think when I think of hybrid, I think of more like if you're on retainer. like maybe a family law case. If you, um, the retainer is $2,500, but your attorney is $300 an hour. Your attorney would draw from the 2,500, and once it's brought down to a specific number, you replenish the retainer or bring it up to the 2,500 again if that's your retainer. But they would deduct it by their hourly rate. But having the retainer gets you, enough work that you need done on your case without having to continuously pay the attorney all the time. So I would consider that maybe like a hybrid.
But in a hybrid approach for a contingency fee, and first, can you tell us what is the typical split of a contingency fee? And then, if a personal injury attorney said that, okay, I'm going to try a hybrid approach with you in this case because of whatever reasons, what might that arrangement be like?
Um, I usually don't do the hybrid approach because I find that people want to know how much they're paying at the end of the day. So it's either I do a flat fee, or if I'm doing a personal injury or medical malpractice case, I'm doing a contingency. So I would get my fee if and when there is a recovery for the client.
And how much would that be? What would be the percentage of that?
So typically, attorneys will charge between, I would say, 30 to 40%. So yeah, between like 30 to 40% is usually what lawyers and law firms charge.
So let's go back to the instances you said there's a $15,000 recovery, and out of that, does the money get sent directly to the client, or does it get sent to the lawyer? And then how does that those fees how are those fees deducted? Are the filing fees and the other administrative fees, such as photocopying or telephone records or depositions, are all those deducted from the attorney's 1/3, or is that separate and above the 1/3?
So that portion is separate. So when we receive a check for a client, it's sent to our firm or the lawyer's firm, and then the lawyer or the law firm would create like it's called a settlement distribution list. So it itemizes everything, all of the fees that went into handling the case. So let's say you get a $10,000 recovery, and you you had a deposition that was $300 that came back that was $300, which is actually not bills of the client, it's bills of the firm. But you subtract $300 for the deposition from the $10,000. Let's say if there's a filing fee of $200, so now we're at minus $500. You deduct all of that, and then that is the total amount that the client would potentially get. Then you would subtract the attorney's fees from that, and whatever is left goes to the client.
And in terms of recoveries, if a customer was to come to you and say, Attorney Gardner, I like you, I like what you have to say, and I like this idea of me not having to pay any money out of pocket because I don't have any money, but I definitely have been injured. But I'm curious, Attorney Gardner, what is the most you've ever recovered for one of your clients? How would you answer that?
You mean like the dollar amount?
Yeah, I say, how much have you been able to ever recover from a client, personal injury or medical malpractice case? What's the upper limit of my abilities to recover working with you?
Well, in our firm, because I also have a partner, we've settled cases for at least $1 million.
Now
Um,
that would be reassuring.
Yeah, I mean, at least 1 million without even going to trial.
Wow,
Just
that's
settling it.
amazing.
Um,
That's amazing.
yeah, I've had one that I settled within like literally 2 days. My client went to um, urgent care, followed up with like a specialist, and I was able to get him $40,000 within like a week.
Wow,
So, but yeah, we do.
that's awesome.
We have a lot of recoveries here.
That's good. It sounds like you guys know your craft.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I'd like to get some closing thoughts from you as you have been practicing now for you seem like you're actually probably your sister's age right out of high school. So I know you get that a lot.
I do.
And but let's say, for example, if you were giving your sister some advice and she was thinking about going to law school, or anybody thinking about going to law school, and particularly in this time in which we live during this pandemic, what advice might you have? What areas of law might they want to focus on? Would you even encourage them to go to law school in the first place? What would you advise?
I would encourage I would encourage people to go to law school. It's a lot you can do with your law degree. It is a lot that you can do as an attorney. It is for me a very fulfilling career. I'm able to do a lot of different things. Like this week, pretty much everywhere. I was in criminal court. I had civil court. I'm in landlord tenant court tomorrow, and I'm in traffic court on Friday. So I get to do a lot of different things. So job is never boring. It's busy, but it's never boring for me. But I think having at least a JD, which is a Juris Doctor, if you're graduating from law school, is a good degree to have. And if my sister, wanted to be an attorney, I would tell her to go for it. If you do want to be an attorney, get a mentor, do an internship, try to get as much experience as you can so you can see what it's like, or even if this is something that you're interested in. But I would say, just I think having a mentor is um, the most important advice I could give. I have a lot of mentors. I used to be very shy growing up, and once I graduated from college, that went out the window. I talked to a lot of people, networked with a lot of people, and were able um, to have the accomplishments and success that I have because of the great mentors that I had in my life.
That has been an amazing 45 minutes or so that we have spent together. We've learned a lot from you, Attorney Gardner, a lot about the practice that you are focused on, a lot about yourself, a lot about the kind of customers and clients that you are helping every day. We found out how people might uh, engage with you. And of course, we know as we have scrolling across the bottom of the screen, if people are interested in scheduling an appointment with you, they can go straight on to the abe.legal platform and schedule an appointment. Generally, you're going to be seeing both civil law cases as well as criminal law cases, as you may mentioned earlier, but mainly civil law cases. And so you can go ahead and schedule that appointment with Attorney Gardner. We are really also grateful to have someone like yourself who's also a mother, as you said, because a lot of our customers, our clients, they're parents also. They're working, they have children, and they're going through very real day to day circumstances, and having that background, I'm sure, helps you to give advice to your clients. So we're really, really grateful that you took the time to spend together with us today on the Abe podcast, Attorney Gardner. We look forward to having you hopefully back to talk about some of your amazing cases that you've had in between that time. And again, we want to wish you and your family the best of both safety and success in this time there in Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Well, that has been an amazing conversation with attorney Brittany Gardner. Again, if you want to schedule an appointment with attorney Gardner or any other of our famous world-class lawyers from across the country, please visit abe.legal. That's abe.legal. And again, we are very accessible. We can also, of course, don't hesitate to like this conversation, share any questions in the comments. Even after the conversation's over, we can follow back up with you, and subscribe and share this conversation with your friends and family. We are here to help individuals, families, and small businesses to not only just survive the pandemic and beyond, but to really thrive. And that's what we're doing daily. So again, this is Talib Karim with Abe Legal. We are looking forward to having a very exciting guest next week, attorney Aziz Hassan, who's a patent attorney, intellectual property specialist, who has represented individuals and companies from around the world, particularly Fortune 500 companies in intellectual property. Stay tuned for that conversation. And again, we look forward to being of help to you, your family, and or your small business. This is Talib Karim with Abe Legal. Have a wonderful day.